The voice of Husker Nation is on the air. This is Hail Varsity Radio. Insight, opinion, expertise, along with the biggest names talking Nebraska sports. Join in with the show at 402-489-1240 or 1-800-825-5865. Now, here are your hosts, Chris Schmidt and Elijah Herbel.
Welcome to it, Hail Varsity Radio on the road, Day 2, Big Ten Media Days, as it's Nebraska Day today, and lots to get into with head coach Matt Rhule, Nebraska Athletic Director Trev Alberts, quarterback Jeff Sims, linebacker Luke Reimer. We'll hear from Ethan Piper, Gerry DiNardo, and Damon Benning going to join us. So a loaded-up show as though things are getting packed up and put away here in Indy. Big virtual hug to Elijah Herbel, even if he's not a hugger, for all his work and intensity in a great way
together,
back
baby.
In the studio. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel can find us on Hail Varsity Radio's socials and watch the show, the Hail Varsity YouTube channel, Hail Varsity Radio, Twitter at HVarsity Radio, and give us a follow as well at Schmidt_radio and at Herbal Essence. So, loaded show. We'll start things off with our Matt Rhule interview. We were able to get in touch with Coach a little bit earlier in the day, and just big thanks to Nebraska Sports Information, Keith Mann and Matt Smith for accommodating the requests. I really appreciate that. So that is on the way. But Elijah, you look at some of the things that were on docket today. One was, Nebraska's message, Matt Rhule's message. One, respect and fear. Two different words. Respect is earned and then can be lost. And Nebraska, in the process of capitalizing the R in respect, and they want to do that this season. And he's right. Matt Rhule is right. Nebraska was feared by a lot of football programs for a lot of years, that they were going to come in and hurt you, and there's nothing you could do about it. Well, Nebraska has a chance to make a statement year one in the Rhule era. There's also urgency, sooner rather than later, as the Big Ten is shifting and going, borderless, for lack of a better term, with the divisions going away after this year. We'll get into what the vision is for the quarterback run game with Matt Rhule in just a little bit. The national question mark and talking point was PJ Fleck today, and also Jim Harbaugh. Allegations against PJ Fleck, toxic and culture, two words you don't want put together. That was part of a story that came out yesterday, about 12 to 15 hours before PJ Fleck made his way to Lucas Oil Stadium. Fleck answered that in the podium, make that the large stage session of Big Ten Media Days. Scott Dochterman of The Athletic asking the question, and here's how PJ Fleck responded to the accusations about his culture being toxic, a cult-like setup, and even, yes, the bank of Fleck. Here's what the Gopher head coach had to say.
First of all, the Fleck Bank, mostly used in 2017 and 18, was an analogy in a team meeting, talking about the more you invest into a program, the better experience you're going to get out of it. And as a head football coach, when you come in and you don't know anybody, right, the guys that do really good things are going to have a really good experience. If you're not doing all the right things, you're probably not going to have a great experience. There was no currency ever exchanged. There was no coins that ever existed. It was an analogy simply to explain investment for life, a life lesson of investment. Simply that. No one ever got out of any type of punishment for that. And just so everybody knows, in punishing our football team, that word punishing, in fact, our athletic department has taken over our disciplinary type actions. We do not use physical activity to discipline our players at the University of Minnesota, and we have never done that. Our players do things like they wake up early and clean the weight room. And whatever you did, you watch a video on that. If you were late to class, you watch a video on tardiness. You then write your professor a letter. Those are the disciplines we actually have within our program. that our athletic department changed their policies and made sure that no physical activity of any sport could be used as punishment based on what we created as a football team.
PJ Fleck, whether you're a fan or like him or not, crushed it today.
Well, and I said that yesterday, Schmidt. I said that yesterday. I said a lot of how we perceive this quote-unquote scandal around Minnesota will be based on how PJ Fleck handles this at Media Days tomorrow. And I'm with you. I think he absolutely killed it and said, essentially, this is our culture. And that's what we said yesterday. It was a culture that clearly wasn't for everybody within that program. But if you can own your culture, explain some of the reasons why you do some things that were listed and painted in a bad light in the article. I mean, this didn't hold a candle to what was going on at Northwestern. Some people probably wanted to compare it to that. But I knew if PJ Fleck could get up there and defend his own culture, it was going to take a lot of the heat off of him and off that Minnesota football program, and he did just that today.
And he did, the way he, I guess, educated in the defense, and his tone said a lot. Mm-hmm. His tone wasn't divisive or even guarded. He was just pretty open. But you know what? You look at PJ Fleck, Nebraska, and Coach Rhule, going to be a monster game as we inch towards the season. Thursday night college football, and all eyes will be on Nebraska, Minnesota for an early tilt in the West race. So we will get you to Matt Rhule. We'll get his thoughts here in a moment. Reminder about your friends at Dyer Law. If you've been hurt in a personal injury accident, you can count on Dyer Law to provide you with a helping hand you need, no matter what you're dealing with. Call Dyer Law today, the team at 402-393-7529, or visit Dyer.law to chat with a trusted professional about your personal injury claim. That's Dyer.law, 402-393-7529. Loaded up show, Trev Alberts coming up in 10 minutes. We'll have more with the Huskers, the quarterback, Jeff Sims, in hour 2. Damon Benning with us. Without further delay, let's get you to Matt Rhule, joining us here on Hail Varsity, presented by Currency. Matt Rhule joins us here. Coach, good to see you. Thanks for a few minutes and making time this morning. You're a big community guy with being able to sit down with players, get to know, and spend time with all the players and kids on the Nebraska football team. So I saw the tweet the other night about Taco Tuesday, and you didn't get the invite. So if you're making dinner, I want to start off before football. What's your spread? What's your menu? What are you making for the team?
Well, luckily for me, my wife went to culinary school. So,
oh, what, really?
Yeah, so she's gonna do probably all the cooking. If it's me, we're probably gonna go out to a restaurant.
Okay. So maybe burgers.
Maybe I can throw some burgers. Yeah, I can throw some burgers on the grill. I can probably do a little something there. But my cooking range is limited to like omelets for the girls in the morning, and really microwaving things up. So
okay, that's all right.
Yep. I'm no Garrett McGuire. So
no, that's fine. I know. So Matt Rhule with us. Coach, exciting for so many Nebraska fans, 2003 football season just around the corner. And I want to ask you a little bit here about the chemistry factor with the football team and just some of your stops and your expertise, how you plan to get that chemistry to grow it really and make it a reality for this football team, how one another with each player can play for one another when times get tough.
Yeah, I think we're always trying to build that sense of brotherhood, that sense of a shared purpose, also a sense of shared experiences. That guys may come from different backgrounds, but whether it's Gus and our player development team, community service, player events, making guys interact with different people, whether it's dinner, whether it's moving into the dorms and picking the roommates for them so they meet different people. I think the more that we have common experiences, the more that we share a bit of our lives with each other, we start to have respect for each other. And those relationships, they don't show up usually until they're needed, until really difficult times. And so that's part of our entire plan, the entire offseason. And as we get into the season, really teaching the game, because to have success, you need someone else to do their job, and making sure the guys understand that this is a game that we work together. And I think we've done a really good job. Our players have bought into it, and we just have to carry it through the season.
Coach Matt Rhule is with us here on Hail Varsity Radio and KFOR Mornings as Schmidt's holding down the fort in Indianapolis. I'm back here in Lincoln. And Coach, with all the news that coming out of the Big Ten in the past couple of weeks with the hazing allegations at Northwestern that have really rocked that program, and now the allegations with the toxic culture at Minnesota, I'm not asking you to speak on these other programs, but I want to ask you if there's been any learning lessons for you as you attempt to build a team culture and maintain that culture at Nebraska. Have you taken anything away from those stories?
No. I think at the end of the day, I recognize that in the world we live in now, people are going to rise up at different times and say different things. And I think, this is my 11th year being a head coach. I've been blessed. I've always taken the approach of making sure that everything that we do every single day, if it was being aired on ESPN, that, I'd be okay with that. And so, I think you can show a transcript of something someone says, and there can be context one way or the other. And, we're here for a very simple purpose, and that's to help improve the lives of young people. And so if that's your purpose, then you're going to have a great culture. You're going to have great experiences. Not everyone's always going to be happy, but, overall it's going to be the right thing. And so we take great pride in the way we treat our players, the way we're pushing them to be great. And you know what, just have to believe in that and trust in that, and trust that it won't be for everybody, but most of the players will really, really be grateful.
Speak to that treatment and how it transitions to buy-in.
Well, you hope that guys say, man, I have a relationship with my coach. He cares about me as more than just a football player. In my darkest moments, when I'm failed and I'm laying, broken on the floor, my coach is going to be there to have my back and pick me up. If they have that sort of a feeling, then they're gonna step up and fight for you. They're gonna have your back. They're gonna want to help you, just like you're helping them. And then that starts to transcend to each other. And so, to me, that's why we spend so much time in the off season with our players. That's why we want to get to know them on a deeper, more personal level. And I think that is what makes great teams. It might not, people think of teams, they think about talent, they think about play calling, they think about all these things, but really to me it's about, how the team interacts and fights for each other. And I don't know where we are yet. I'll have to get to some adversity until I find out. But I know we're on the path and we're doing the right things.
Matt Rhule with us here at Big Ten Media Days. Coach, what are some strengths as you've kind of tracked this team not far off from camp time here? What, I guess, do you perceive as some of the strengths of this football team? A broader question. I think we have a tough physical team. I think based upon what I saw in the spring, we have a lot of guys that are going to play the game the right way. We have some veteran players on the offensive line and a tight end that I'm excited about. We've got a really good running back room. Excited about Jeff Sims, who I brought here, as well as Heinrich and Chuba. I think anytime you have a quarterback that you believe in, and we have three that we believe in, you're going to have a chance to win. So, to me, it's less about the actual team itself and more about us getting into the fourth quarter of games and making the plays that maybe we haven't made the last couple of years. And so that's everything from conditioning to the way that we practice to preparing them for those situations, and then hoping that it manifests itself on game day. What's the right amount to run a quarterback?
Over the years, I've really thought a lot about that. I've probably come a little more for full circle on it. I don't know if you can run it. I think if you're running him to get 3 yards and get tackled by 7 people, repetitively is probably not the right thing. I think if you can create explosive plays, if situationally on, third downs, you can convert third and fourth downs, you can score touchdowns in the red zone. The thing with Jeff, the thing with Heinrich, the thing with Chuba, they're all 4'4", 4'5", 4'6" guys. I don't want to rob them of what makes them great. And for Jeff, it might just be dropping back to pass and tucking it and taking off. It might just be those unscripted runs that make him great. But I see the young man from Florida, his name is Casey Richardson. Come to the Colts, and a lot of it based upon his athletic ability. So we're going to try to turn those guys loose. We don't want to be silly with it and have them getting, like I said, just running up the middle and getting 3-4 yards 10 times and getting beat up. But if we can make some plays with them, we will.
Coach Matt Rhule's with us here, and Coach, whenever you talk about that quarterback run game, how long are you expecting it to take to develop what that bread and butter is going to be with the offense? Because you've spoken plenty about how much you want to run the ball at Nebraska, and I just want to get your thoughts on learning this team and figuring out what the right balance is going to be for that offense. How long do you think that process is going to take?
It takes a while, to be honest with you. Unfortunately for me, it's always taken me about a year, to kind of go through a season in a conference and figure out, like, hey, this is what the Big 12 is. This is what the American is. This is how we can win now. Even the Big 10 3 years ago is different than now. Like, I see Luke Fickell walking over there. They're going to come in and run the spread, right? So I've got to see who I have to beat. That being said, we've worked really hard to not have to have it take a year. We're fighting. But we're blessed that we start the year off with 2 Power 5 teams on the results after playing Minnesota and playing Colorado. So those first 2 games will really help us. I think we'll have a chance to come back and really look at who we are. But we'll be doing it every day during camp and trying to figure out, hey, what does Gabe Irvin do well? What does our O-line do well? What do our tight ends do well? And capitalize on that.
Last thought, and we'll get you out. And, Coach, good to meet you.
Yes,
and thanks again. What do you think the Big Ten as a conference does well?
I think it's the upfront play. I think it's the defenses in the upfront play. You look at last year at the NFL draft. I think there was more Big Ten O-linemen drafted than there were SEC O-linemen. So I think there's just a lot of really good big O-linemen, D-linemen in this league. So for us, it's about building the size of our lineup, getting great quarterback play, and finding speed that we can train at the skill position so that Nebraska can be big, fast, and explosive.
Coach, take care. Thanks
Thank
for
you, brother.
making time.
Good to see
Appreciate
you,
you.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Back with you at Hail Varsity Radio. We're here at Lucas Oil Stadium. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel. We say hi to the Athletic Director, Trev Alberts. It's good to see you again.
Good to see you.
Well, how kind of started off the interviews, we're blinking and summer's done. So how was the summer?
Well, summer was great. I think we got a lot of good work done. Had a little chance to kind of reset a little bit, obviously, as we're getting started here for the fall. But I think it was a productive summer all across the athletic department. And I think by and large we have some momentum, and now we got to capitalize on it. Yep,
momentum's big. And you know it as well as anybody as a great player. And let's kind of hone in on the topic of momentum. And you look at the opportunity with this football schedule in Minnesota, the opener here. I want to go there, and just your thoughts on the magnitude of that opportunity.
Well, it's a great opportunity. Obviously, Minnesota's got a great football team, and Coach Fleck has done a really good job there, and they've had a lot of success against us. And so, you look at it 2 different ways. You can look at that first game and say, man, do we really want to play a conference opponent week 1 on the road? But I think it also can help in the sense that it gets the attention of your team. Summer might be a little bit different. There's no sort of easing into the college football season right away. A Western opponent on the road. Certainly a great football team, but a great opportunity for us too. Yeah.
It's Nebraska Athletic Director Trev Alberts with us here on Hail Varsity Radio. And Trev, whenever you think about the opener, I know players, there's nervous excitement that comes along with starting the season in that way. And I want to get your take now that you're an athletic director. Do you still get that same nervous excitement whenever you think about the start of a football season?
Oh, a little bit. You sort of live vicariously through those young men. You remember back to the days, and most importantly, you just want to see them be successful. I would sort of, hurt me over the years is to know that a lot of these young men have not had the type of experience that a lot of former players in Nebraska have had, where you got to enjoy having a level of success and a momentum and that was really special in our state. And so I want to see Jeff Sims, and I want to see Luke Reimer, and I want to see those guys have the opportunity to enjoy success in a way that's really meaningful for them. We haven't had a chance to do that. So I think you have this, sort of sense of excitement, but mostly it's excitement for the coaches and players because you want them to be successful.
Trev Alberts with us, Hail Varsity Radio, Big Ten Media Days. What I look at with this defense, and you look at on its face, Trev, it's a 3-3-5, but you've got the hybrid element to it. You have the versatility, and it reminds me of just when you guys made your switch to a 4-3. Just talking with Coach McBride about things, how levels kind of moved up, i.e. safeties and outside backers, and you let guys be athletic, and even some outside backers put their hand in the dirt were defensive ends. So to get more speed on the field. Is there a parallel with what Nebraska wants to do defensively now compared to when you guys made a switch about 30 years ago?
Well, I think it's a good question. I mean, I think that there certainly can be some. We'll have to see. I think most importantly, I think, Coach McBride really believed in an aggressive defense.
Sure.
They were calculated, but we took risks. And, I think the other thing is trying to allow, just athleticism, passion, and energy and not think too much. I think sometimes you can, think your way into not playing as hard as you possibly could. So the way I look at this defense, I think it's not too dissimilar in the sense that it's a pressure defense. It's getting turnovers. It's creating some havoc. It's trying to, I think one of the things that Coach McBride did, a really good job of, while we had a base defense, he had a lot of variations where it was difficult for the offense to know exactly who was who and where they were coming from. And so that gave us some opportunity to do some pressures in third and long situations. Still had to stop the run first to get into those situations. But I see that as part of what Tony wants to do as well. I've said this before, but I remember back in my previous career doing a lot of Rocky Long games, and I hated doing them because as I looked at my chart trying to call the game, defenses were really hard because I didn't know who these people were because they were so versatile and interactive. They could move to different positions. They all kind of about the same size. And so I think Tony's got a little bit of that, but then some, evolution from that as well. So I do think there's some comparison, and I like aggressive defense. I think taking chances at times is okay, but obviously in the Big Ten you got to be stout enough to stop the run too.
Well, and you look at, just looking back at some of the Syracuse numbers, they were good against the run, and if they gave up, God forbid, a 7-yard gain, there was a TFL that soon followed, so kind of evened out a lot of times anyway, at least some of the clips I saw, to 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8. You get them in that 3rd down and long situation. So, it'll be interesting to see. I want to go from defense to the fourth quarter mentality, and Coach Rhule's talked about some of his goals for rushing yards in the fourth quarter and being the stronger team. And just your time at Nebraska, Trev, with Nebraska becoming that team that went from some tough fourth quarter outcomes to great fourth quarter outcomes. Tell us about that trip, that process where you guys were able to really turn it into a strength to close out teams.
Yeah, it was really our focus, and I think part of what, if you want to be the most physical team on the field, that doesn't always show up in the first quarter, right? And so the physicality of the game, I think the discipline, the toughness really shows up, in the fourth quarter, right? Like heat and all of those things can make a coward out of all of us, right? But depending on how you work, what type of shape you're in, I think all of those types of things are really, really important ultimately in the fourth quarter. And so we focused on winning the fourth quarter because the fourth quarter was going to be when you were tired, and when you're tired, your technique starts slipping. You start thinking about being tired and not actually what you're supposed to be doing on the field. And so much of it is it's a toughness. It's not a physical toughness only, but a mental toughness. And I think part of that is developed through practice and the way you approach it. And I think that's where Coach Rhule is focused.
It's Nebraska Athletic Director Trev Alberts with us here, Hail Varsity Radio. He sits down with Schmidt in Indianapolis. I'm back in the studios of KFOR holding down the fort in Lincoln. And Trev, I want to zoom out here for a second and discuss two big changes occurring just to the northeast of the stadium here this offseason. The first being the brand new practice facility, and the second being natural grass practice fields. And that's where I want to focus in here for a second. There was a great video posted up last week of those turf fields being installed. What's your reaction to that? I know a lot of former football players and current football players seem to think that natural grass fields are the way forward.
Well, Coach Rhule had access to a lot of information, during his time in the NFL and relative to player safety and injuries and, the amount of time that you're spending. It doesn't mean that, if you play games on turf, but if you spend all of your time, on an artificial surface, a little bit more wear and tear. And so, again, the things that I just love about Coach Rhule, student-athlete centered, what can we do, to help them in recovery, make sure that we're doing everything we can from a health and safety perspective. And so from his perspective, he believes he has the data to to back it up, that if we're going to spend a lot of time practicing, having additional time on natural service is really good for the players and good for their health and their recovery. And so we certainly want to support anything that would help our players recover.
Trev, we get you out of here shortly, and thanks for your time, being generous with us. A thought on the Big Ten as a whole is it's a league that has been represented well in the postseason with the playoffs. It's a league that no doubt will have options and opportunity as the playoff expands. But as you look at the league going into this year and beyond, how do you feel it will be positioned with the addition of USC, UCLA, and then even news about Colorado today trying to move out again? I mean, what do you have in mind here with where the Big Ten may head, at least from a stance of maybe even adding some more teams?
Well, I look at just variables around it, and this is where I feel comfortable. First of all, I think Tony Petitti is a really competent commissioner, and I think he has necessary relationships in the college space that'll be really important to us. So I think we have good leadership. That's important. Number two, I think as we think about an expanded college football playoff, I think that's going to be good for the Big Ten. And so our job now is to understand, okay, how do we take advantage of an expanded 12-team playoff, and how do we ensure that we have the most Big Ten teams that we possibly can in the playoff? I think as you look at our television deals, the reality is, and I think our fans are going to get a real chance to see this as you go forward and you see NBC and CBS and Fox, a little bit like the NFL and even NBA, cross-promotional NFL games promoting the college games. I think the brand building through our linear television partners is going to be really, really important. So we'll see where the rest of it goes. But I think if you start with that level of strength, no matter what happens, I think, first of all, the University of Nebraska, but by extension, the Big Ten Conference is extremely well positioned to do whatever college football or intercollegiate athletics through the NCAA brings our way.
It's going to be a triple header. I mean, it's just a great showcase.
It really is. I mean, it's we've talked about that. I mean, you think about the Masters. You have to not just look at the network you're partnering with, but what are the other pieces of inventory that they have, whether it's the Kentucky Derby. I mean, I think they unveiled the first NBC game on the Derby. Yeah. I mean, those are the types of things that add to your fan base, builds your brand. Traditional college football fans may not be watching, be watching the Kentucky Derby now, are getting access to the Nebraska brand. So I think it's really important. I think it's going to be good for us. I think it's great for our student athletes who are also building their personal brands in this new world.
Okay, I look at the Ring of Honor, and we'll get you out on this. And I'm going to have you draft one of the running backs. All right. Are you taking Eric Dickerson? Are you taking Marshall Faulk? Or are you taking Edgerrin James?
Well, I'm biased because I played with him, but I'm taking Marshall Faulk.
Okay.
Because I remember it wasn't this field, but I'll never forget the first mini camp I showed up, and I was a rookie, and the veterans knew what they were doing, obviously. And we would have to go. The linebackers would have to cover the running backs man to man.
That's no fun.
And why were they all like counting and who was in line and made me go? And I found myself multiple times trying to cover Marshall Faulk. Marshall Faulk was not only a great running back, he had great vision, great speed, but he could hurt you in the passing game so much. I mean, he was one of the best wide receivers we had. So obviously Dickerson was special, Edgerrin James was special, but if I had to take one of them, I'd take Marshall Faulk. Okay.
He almost ended up at Nebraska.
He made a mistake, but we it's okay. But look at the career he had in college. State, he was. I mean, every game it seemed like he had 297 yards.
And they played a schedule.
They did.
They had a crazy good schedule.
But Marshall was a really smart young man. I remember him. I remember he had never played golf in his life, and today he's like a scratch golfer. I mean, he is. If he decides to do something, he can make himself into about anything, and just a fluid athlete who was just really gifted.
That's pretty awesome to hear about the golf. And
it didn't work for me, though, by the way.
Well, I'm still a work in progress with it. So, Trev, you take care. Thanks again for everything.
Yep.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Back with you, Hail Varsity Radio continues as Big Ten Media Days, Day 2, Lucas Oil Stadium. Husker linebacker Luke Reimer with us on site. Luke, good to see you. Thanks for the time. Appreciate you jumping by.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So how's the Indy experience been?
It's been a lot of fun, something that a lot of people don't get to experience. So just kind of taking that into account and just living in the moment and just enjoying this.
So dinner last night.
Mm-hmm.
How many stars would you give?
I'd probably give it a 5.
What'd you get?
Yeah,
Okay.
we went to St. Elmo's, so I was told that was the place to go to in Indy. So I had a shrimp cocktail. The horseradish was a little bit is a little bit of a shock right to the nasal nasal cavity, but yeah, it was fun. It was awesome. It was a good time just chatting with everybody and we had a good time.
Did you tear up?
Yeah, no, there was definitely some oh my gosh, I don't know what I need just to let this feeling go. But yeah.
It is intense. I like it. And
Luke,
welcome to that club.
Yeah.
Hey, Luke, I got to ask you, what's tougher? Is it taking on a pulling guard in the Big Ten, or is it that shrimp cocktail sauce?
Honestly, in the brief moment, it might be the shrimp cocktail. If you take a 5-second or just a big old bite in that 5 seconds, it might be worse. It's no joke.
Oh, you're not wrong. And I haven't
it's no joke.
Met any guards recently, thankfully. Knocking on wood there. But Luke, let's talk about the defense and your connection with Coach White and how that relationship's grown and your confidence level with this transition.
Yeah, just like anything, it takes a little bit of time to get confident in a system. And that's kind of what camp's going to be about. Spring ball was about just, getting more and more reps in it, getting more and more confident in it. So, yeah, it's just going to take a little bit of reps, get a little bit of time under your belt in the system. But, yeah, it's a system that's pretty simple. Obviously there's some ins and outs of it that are going to take a lot of studying and stuff. But, I think it opens up a lot of the roster to where we can play a lot more guys. I'm excited for it, and I think it'll be really good for us.
How do you feel like the 3-3-5 complements what you do well on a football field? How does it bring out some of your strengths? And also, what have you been working on this offseason to try to make your game fit the 3-3-5 a little bit better?
It's a attacking defense, and it's a wide open defense. It's not a tackle and phone booth. It's sideline to sideline. It's a lot of, it fits a lot of my game a lot better, where you're using your speed, you're using your agility more so than just plug in A gaps, plug in B gaps, that sort of thing. It fits my speed because I'm a little bit smaller linebacker. Speed is definitely my forte instead of power. So I think in that sense is just working on speed and working on agility with Coach Campbell and his staff. It's kind of been the theme of the offseason for me.
Let's talk a little bit here about Coach Campbell and just some of the jumps, the progress you've seen, and how you've adapted to him and the progress you've made with it.
Yeah, no, Coach Campbell and his staff, they're awesome. It's pretty fine tuned. We got to line up the plates the exact same way, or else you're gonna have some sort of punishment, some sort of push up, something if the plates aren't in the right way when you're done with it.
Details.
So, the details are to the extreme, almost annoying at some points. But I think that's all for a reason and all for a cause. Because those small details are going to matter when it comes to the fourth quarter against Wisconsin, Minnesota, just all these different teams. It's going to matter. So,
Luke, you're a guy who's played through some injuries during your time at Nebraska, and I want to just dive into your health as you enter the season. Obviously, you're never going to make it through a Big Ten season fully unscathed, but how do you feel as you approach fall camp and get geared up for this season, just regarding your general health and how on top of your game you feel?
No, I feel good. Coach Campbell, like I said, I keep coming back to him. They've done a great job of putting me in the best position from a physical standpoint to have a successful year this year. That's maintenance. That's rehab. That's everything that they do in there has put me in a position where I can be my most athletic, my most healthy, my best version of myself heading into the season. So hats off to them.
Luke Reimer with us, Husker linebacker, Hail Varsity Radio at Lucas Oil Stadium, Big Ten Media Days, Day 2, and wanted to spend some time with the linebacker room. Who are some of the new faces or even young pups that you've been able to get comfortable with? And tell me about the depth here. Do you like that room as far as options? And that obviously could translate to quality snaps, yes, but also maybe a rest if you need one.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a lot of guys. I mean, I don't even want to name them because I'm going to forget somebody. That has the potential that's going to play a lot of reps this year. That's going to give some of the older guys a little bit of a spell when they need it. So yeah, it's the depth in that room is it's good right now. I mean, it's never perfect. There's always room to improve. But yeah, we're going to go through camp, and there's going to be opportunities for everybody to get reps and to be comfortable in the system to where we can go put just a handful of people out there on Saturday and feel really confident in it.
Does each guy's style or strength complement the other players in that three-man front or that three-man second level?
Yeah, I mean, so there's a lot of movement. Like, this defense is based on movement, so there's you got to be athletic to play in this scheme. So yeah, I mean, it fits a lot of the guys in the room because we have a lot of good athletes in that room. So yeah, we're excited to be able to expand on the kind of the different styles of athletes we have in that linebacker room.
One of the new faces in the room is Chief Borders. He's made some preseason all-name teams across college football, and he's also a bit of a TikTok star. Luke, did the other guys in the room give him hell about his TikTok presence, or do you guys respect it?
Yeah, no, we give him some crap for his TikToks, you know. I'm probably the least social media driven person, probably in America. So yeah, it's kind of the two ends of the spectrum. But yeah, so we give him some crap about it, but you know, it's an all love. Like, he means well. It's what's fun for him, and you know, let him do his thing, you know. But we definitely give him some crap about it.
Luke, let's talk about expectations for this year. It's year one. There's a lot of new faces on the roster. There's also new faces at position coaches, a new head coach. And how do you feel the teams kind of come together during the summer as you get close to camp? Do you feel pretty good about the upcoming season?
Yeah, I do. And there's no, I'm not a big, like, we're going to win 10 games, we're going to win 11 games. I just don't think it's, the mindset is we're going to go 12-0, we're going to go 1-0 each week. Like, that's the mindset, but I don't want to go out there and put a number of wins that we want to go get. Like, we want to get 12-0, we want to go undefeated, but I think the better goal, or better the better goal is just control what you control today. Just get 1% better each and every day. Focus on what we got today, on, you know, tomorrow, the next day. And I think the results will take care of itself if you just worry about what you can control in today. So that's kind of my goals going for this season, and I think that kind of reflects the team goals as well, of just let's control what we can control today, and let's get 1% better today than we were yesterday.
Luke, last thought from me on the defensive line that's going to keep those guards that may or may not be similar to the cocktail sauce we talked about earlier in the interview. Tell me what you've seen from that defensive line. There's some vets, but there's also some young talent too to help complement that front seven.
Yeah, I mean, we got some older guys in there, and we got some young guys that I think have the potential to be some very, very special players. So it's just kind of mixing those two groups up, and where we can have a very solid defensive line. So we're excited for it, and I think there's a lot of talent and a lot of potential in that room. So we're excited to see him work.
So a big thank you to Luke Reimer for joining us out at Big Ten Media Days. We still have plenty more content coming your way, as we'll have Damon Benning, you know him from Coffee and Cream. He sat down with us this morning, so joining us on an afternoon here. That's right after the break, next hour to lead off your 5 o'clock hour. We'll also have Husker quarterback Jeff Sims coming your way at about 5:25, and then we'll have Gerry DiNardo joining us at 5:40, talking about his yearly bus tour, as well as his old stomping ground, Colorado. As Colorado announcing today, let's just get right into the announcement that Colorado sent out to their alumni and season ticket holders, saying, "Today we have announced that the University of Colorado Boulder will join the Big 12 Conference in time for the 2024-2025 season. Decisions of this magnitude take an enormous amount of consideration over a number of different factors, but ultimately we decided the stability, resources, and exposure would position CU Boulder, our programs, and our student athletes for long-term success." The Big 12 Conference recently signed a media rights agreement extension that will make them partners with the country's two largest sports media companies, ESPN and Fox, through the 2031 season. This national exposure through linear television and streaming, combined with the Big 12 Conference's footprint across 3 time zones, will not only make CU more accessible to alumni and fans nationwide, but will introduce the Buffs to countless new potentials and students and fans. The Pac-12 is a great conference of which we were honored to be a member of for the past 12 years, but we feel the Big 12 will help CU Boulder continue to cement itself as one of the country's foremost institutions, both in competition and in classrooms. That part of the statement from the University of Colorado. Brett McMurphy chimes in on Twitter and clues us in on the Big 12's plans moving forward. Obviously, the Big 12 now at an odd number in the 2024-2025 academic year, with Colorado added. The league's first priority, according to Brett McMurphy, will be adding 1 or 3 more schools from the Pac-12. If they're unable to get who they would like from there, they will then go to the group of 5, and they have a short list of schools that they like: UConn, Memphis, San Diego State, and UNLV are the group they're targeting from the group of 5. So that's what the Big 12 is looking to do. As they expand, Colorado makes the announcement that we've been expecting for a couple weeks now. They're off to the Big 12. We'll hit that with the coach, Gerry DiNardo, coming your way next hour. But first, we'll hear from Damon Benning and Jeff Sims. That's coming your way to lead off Hour 2 of Hail Varsity Radio. We're presented by Currency.
The voice of Husker Nation is on the air. This is Hail Varsity Radio. Insight, opinion, expertise, along with the biggest names talking Nebraska sports. Join in with the show at 402-489-1240 or 1-800-825-5865. Now, here are your hosts, Chris Schmidt and Elijah Herbel.
Back into it, it's Hail Varsity Radio, Lucas Oil Stadium, Day 2 Big Ten Media Days. And we say hi to Damon Benning with Hurrdat Coffee and Cream. And, of course, you're going to be able to catch his exclusive sit-down with Matt Rhule. That'll drop tomorrow morning. Damon, good to see you, man.
Hey,
Thanks
good
for
to
a
be
few
seen.
minutes.
One of my favorites. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. So I love the audible last night where you go pork chops at the steakhouse.
Yeah, I had to switch.
I'm starting a lot of food talks because, well, listen, I walk into that place in downtown Indianapolis, and they need to make a candle that smells like that place.
I tell you what, it looked like it was kind of overtaken by a lot of Nebraska folks.
Yes,
I
yes,
mean,
it was.
A lot of tables represented by folks from Nebraska. Now, there's enough of us here.
You think?
So that's always a good. Do you think that back at Big Ten Media Days are like, all right, everybody else, Nebraska contingency?
Well, yeah. There's the Nebraska section, then there's everybody else.
Right. You know,
let's just jack up the digital fee.
I'm such a steak snob. I like my own steaks at home typically, and I always eat beef.
Yeah.
And so I told myself all day, if that was where we ended up going, that it was going to be between the stuffed shrimp, the crab stuffed shrimp, and the pork chop. I went with the pork chop. It was just okay.
Well, Damon, really fast here, let's dive into your take on steaks. We're talking with Jeff Sims. He's a bone-in ribeye guy. That's what he got last night. He's a man after my own heart. Oh. As for Schmidt, I know he's a tenderloin guy. If you had the choice.
It went 12 ounce, and it won.
Damon, what are you picking?
Zero thought given to this. I am a bone-in ribeye guy.
Yes.
Okay.
And my second choice would be a bone-in ribeye. My third choice would be a bone-in ribeye. Then I would probably go strip, then a filet. There's just something, and I know, like, filet people love fillets, but if you're a ribeye guy, you're probably not a filet guy because you like a little marble. A little, you need a little fat to gelatinize a little bit, but fillets, there's just something wrong about only eating 6 or 8 ounces of meat. No, you give me a nice, good I saw that on Twitter.
Yeah,
I saw that.
Yeah,
now that looks legit.
It's a bone-in, 2-pound strip.
That looks way good,
and
it
did not share,
and it's the perfect color.
Pink.
That is the perfect color too. But yeah, without question, I'm a bone-in ribeye guy.
We're going to go from talking grilling to grilling on Nebraska. Damon, how are you feeling here about 2023 with this team? There's a lot of new, but new can be good.
Yeah, new can definitely be good. I'm going to start at the top because I think this is the best combination of athletic leadership and head coaching potential that Nebraska's had in 20-some-odd years. Mm-hmm. So, I feel really good about that part. I like the combination of Trev Alberts and that athletic department and Matt Rhule and his staff, two like-minded folks that have a common vision, that aren't afraid to share common language too, right? Because I think the common language within the program leads to built-in accountability. Mm-hmm. They talk the same, and so I'm pretty excited about that. I think from a football standpoint, a lot of unknowns. There's going to be a lot of new faces. I think it will be highly competitive. I don't even feel real comfortable, and this is close, and I've seen a ton of practices, and I still don't know. I don't feel real comfortable with. I don't know if I could get 16 or 17 out of 22 starters.
It's that up in the air because
I think it
spots are open.
Yeah, I do. I don't think anything will be taken for granted. I can't even decide between, like, let's say a Piper and a Norelli, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, just that battle alone is difficult. Quarterback situation, I think, is set. Gabe Ervin Jr. gets a lot of the praise, but that backfield is deep. I don't know much past Kemp and Marcus Washington, who I think a lot of folks forget about. He was by far Nebraska's next best receiver a year ago. So, and what happens in the tight end room? You got options. A healthy Fedoni excites me. We'll see what happens with the ruling on Gilbert.
Lean?
I think they say yes. I just don't know how soon.
Sure.
And I like Borkature. Mm-hmm. Janarian Bonner is coming off a very good offseason too. So, but still, I couldn't tell you who's getting the first snaps, right? Even fullback with like Liebentritt. Yeah, I mean, great player. Coached him as a kid, getting them from Notre Dame, but just a lot of unknowns.
As you look at the line and what you perceive their strengths to be, let's talk style matchup with Ervin and what he's kind of tabbed, and he can do a lot, so I don't want to just pigeonhole him, but seeing as that between the tackles option, Reimer is somebody that really is tough for his size, and I think Nebraska fans love watching him work. And then you've got Grant, and I just love his explosiveness, and I have visions of the line being better, being physical, good on point of attack, and then, if Grant's able to get those schemes down, I know Nebraska's been working on with him, I see big things. Am I off on that?
No, I think that's pretty accurate, and I think the same voice with that offensive line will really help, and I think they will run the football according to their strengths. It'll be a little more big on big. When you get some pin and pulls, it will be about angles, and so guys can play to their strengths. Mm-hmm. Just come off the ball and be aggressive. Let that part speak for itself, and then you can get into kind of the intricacies of the offense. I felt like in the spring, even though Ervin did get a lot of the praise, that Grant probably came the furthest in terms of changing his running style, right? Because with Coach Barthel, I mean, he's a hit it, split it guy. Get downhill, get in the crease, and Grant hadn't always been that kind of back, right? Always looking to kind of make the big play as opposed to, 2nd and 6 is okay, right? Hand the ball back to the official, make him, snap it again. So he probably came the furthest in terms of changing his game, like kind of his style. And I'm excited to see that happen because his initial burst, he's explosive. And he's hard to bring down. The first guy almost never gets him. Mm-hmm. And I like that. And I understand the Gabe Irvin, intrigue, but I wouldn't sell any of those guys short. Any of them.
Damon Benning with us here. You hear him on the mornings with Coffee and Cream, joining us here in the afternoons on Hail Varsity Radio. And Damon, a lot of the points you've made here over the past 3-4 minutes or so have really underscored Matt Rhule's his focus on building a competitive culture within this team. And as we've seen in recent days and weeks with Minnesota and with Northwestern, there's more to culture than just being competitive on the field. And I want to get your thoughts on your trust in Matt Rhule's ability to be able to handle that side of things as well, the off-the-field team culture.
Yeah, I tell you, he's fantastic. You can just tell. So somebody asked me earlier about, how does he just happen to capture all the good PR culture moments? And I kind of described it like this: when you want good for people and you want to do right, those moments typically find you, right? You can get a volleyball breakfast picture on social media, and it hits, right? Oh, Coach Rhule never misses. Well, it's because genuinely he's just a good person, very, very easy to cheer for, and those are the people that he wants to surround himself with. You have to be one of those coaches that puts kids first. He's got a couple of hard, fast rules. He'll say things like, when you come to that staff meeting, don't tell me what a kid can't do. Tell me what he can do. My coaches, I want to be around coaches that want to coach our kids, and we need to be pouring into them on that aspect. And I think that kind of stuff trickles into the off-the-field stuff in terms of accountability, player-led accountability, and being there for one another. And I think I feel really, really good about the culture really coming a long way and being sustainable with how they want to play.
Damon Benning sitting down with us here, Big Ten Media Days, Hail Varsity Radio. Damon, you were part of some incredible teams and had an incredible role with those teams. You also went up against, and I say this lovingly, a nasty bunch of black shirts.
Oh, yeah.
And parallels, and I asked Trev about this, but there was a shift philosophically with Nebraska 30 years ago for speed. Mm-hmm. It's a priority, and it's the identity of what I think Coach Rhule wants Nebraska to be: very fast, obviously tough, physical, but be fast. And do you see the defense as it's made up now and the personnel they have, can they have a successful year one in transition, but is it going to be similar to, I guess, a shift to what was 30 years ago? Do you see any mismatch with that?
I do, right? And I don't know about the success level yet, right. But and I get it, right? But I think the design is the same. Guys that play on the third level normally move them to the second level. Guys on the second level can play on the edges on the first level, and first level guys have to be really athletic, right? I think that's how he's going to start. And when you look at the frames, right, just coming down in weight, lighter, quicker, faster, they're going to put guys on the move. And I think, and with that, I actually like it. And I'll go as far as, I don't know if this is a hot take, but it would not surprise me at all if we start talking about black shirts again first before we talk about any semblance of continuity on offense. I think that's the temperament. I think if you sit Coach Rhule and that staff down, he says, we haven't paid enough attention to the black shirts. When Nebraska was winning meaningful football games, they did it with good defense, and we want to do it again with good defense. I hadn't heard a lot of coaches that have come in there with this kind of mindset that actually you can start to see it put to paper with how they're recruiting. He wants to win on the defensive side of the ball.
Damon Benning with us. Damon, get you out. I want a couple of last thoughts from you. One, just a little tease here for the interview tomorrow with Matt Rhule. Give folks a nugget or two. Two, high school football. How's the season going to shape up? How
two things near and dear to my heart. Yep. With Coach Rhule, how my style, kind of how I am as a person. I like to get underneath the topical stuff, and you'll get a lot of that with Coach Rhule. We talked family, the importance of family, how it lends itself to culture, and how his culture's been portable. And then we get into some football too. But, you know, I think we got it down to about 55 minutes. It was really about 90 minutes of, I mean, we started in the weight room. It was real casual and comfortable. We walked outside. We kind of we walked the field, and we kind of sat at the 50-yard line and got into the nuts and bolts of what he wants out of fall camp. So a few different questions asked, and I think we're probably accustomed to head coaches being asked, but I wanted people to kind of get behind the man a little bit, because I think people know my affinity for him as a person, and it happened quickly. Like, you know, he doesn't like this term, but, you know, people say, oh, you know, you're drinking the Rhule-Aid. And he'll tell you, there's not Rhule-Aid to be had. It's just a way to do life.
Sure.
And if you rally around that way to do life, he's not apologizing for it. And that's he has this blend, you guys. He doesn't take himself so serious that he can't learn, but he's firm enough in his convictions that he leaves you wanting more. He's good, and some would say great down in Waco or in Philly. Yeah, but he's also pretty humble. Yeah, it's amazing. He pays attention to detail. He watches body language. He pays attention to mannerisms, and he's constantly taking mental notes. He's a very quick processor. It's incredible. It's not just his wit. It's his ability to kind of see and forecast, because he's already got it played out in his mind. He's very good in that regard, and I think you'll hear that come out tomorrow. The other thing is, with our high school team, we just finished. I took 2 weeks. We had team camp. I was just watching our film this morning from camp on Huddle, just checking in on the guys. I'm paranoid. I'm excited. I think it's going to be highly competitive, and I know folks have us penciled in to have a good year, but I love our schedule. Mm-hmm. It's highly competitive. 7 out of the 9 teams we played last year were in the playoffs. Should have been 8. You know, Miller North was upset in Week 9 that kept them out of the playoffs. So we could have had 8 out of the 9 in the playoffs, and those teams are a year older. I know everybody will pencil the September 9th matchup against Bellevue West. Not that I remembered that date, but it starts for us August 25th against Creighton Prep. So I'm pretty excited. We got a really good group of guys, and it should be fun.
It's Damon Benning with us here, Hail Varsity Radio. You can find his interview with Coach Matt Rhule on the Hurrdat Sports YouTube channel. That's tomorrow. And Damon, before we get you out about 60 seconds here, I got to know, from your time on the high school football field, what's your favorite coachism? The one of those coaching sayings you'll hear all across America. My favorite is always, success isn't owned and rent is due every single day. I know you probably have some good ones here. What's your favorite, though?
The only thing that grows under still feet is dead grass. Get moving.
Keep them chopping.
So it's that's one of my favorites, and our kids hear me say it often. Get your butt in gear.
Damon Benning, I love it.
Oh,
Damon,
appreciate it, my man.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
There is Damon Benning, kind enough to join us. You hear him on Coffee and Cream, and he joined us here this afternoon at Big Ten Media Days, Hail Varsity Radio, as we roll forward. Again, you can check out Damon's interview with Coach Matt Rhule, a long-form interview, almost an hour of content with Damon. That's going to be coming out tomorrow. The Hurrdat Sports YouTube channel is where you go with that. We love our friends over with Hurrdat, and seen some clips, Damon and Matt Rhule with a very solid interview. You're going to want to check that one out. Again, drops tomorrow. We'll make sure to throw a link to you on our Twitter page. That's at HVarsity Radio, so you can make sure to check that out. Hail Varsity Radio rolls forward. Husker quarterback Jeff Sims on the way.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Hail Varsity Radio rolls forward here on a Thursday edition of this show, as Schmidt is headed back home from Indianapolis tomorrow morning. He'll be back in Lincoln for the show tomorrow from 4 to 6. And as a reminder, you can catch almost all of these interviews in video form on the Hail Varsity YouTube page, as they're cut up that way. And then you can catch the full show on the Hail Varsity YouTube page as well with video. So every single one of these interviews that we did today came along with video. And if you want to see Schmidt and myself, our beautiful faces, and all the beautiful face of our guests as well. You can check that out. Again, the Hail Varsity YouTube page. Look for today's show posted, roughly 7:30 or 8 o'clock every single night. Without any further ado, let's get to our sit down earlier today with Husker quarterback Jeff Sims as he sat down with us. I get caught up on a multitude of things, his offseason development, the weight he's put on, and a whole lot more. So let's get to it. Husker quarterback Jeff Sims joins us here on Hail Varsity Radio.
Back into it at Hail Varsity Radio, live here at Lucas Oil Stadium. Husker quarterback Jeff Sims joins us. Mr. Sims, nice to meet you. Good to spend a few minutes. Thanks for joining us here on Radio Row. So let's give the Jeff Sims rating on dinner last night. We were both at
St. Elmo's.
St. Elmo's, man, and I love it. It was incredible. But your first time there?
My first time there. It was it was pretty interesting. You
a big steak guy?
I am,
okay.
Actually. That's been my favorite food since I was a little kid. So I got a bone-in ribeye, I think it was like 28 ounce.
Look at you, man.
Yeah, I tore it up too. And,
Satterfield's talked about you bulking up.
Oh yeah, most definitely. I've embraced that. This offseason been big for me. This the most I've ever weighed, so I mean, and it doesn't feel bad. So I think that's a good thing.
Let's go there and stay with that. We could spend more time on bone-in ribeyes too. I mean, that'd be fun. But in all seriousness, what's your take? What's your notion here about the Big Ten as a quarterback that has ability to hurt teams with his arm but make plays with his legs? What does a quarterback need, in your opinion, in the Big Ten?
I would say the weight, need to be durable, because I know the Big Ten is more hard mouth football, like bigger guys, and so I think that's something that I noticed that I had to get better with was my weight, because I never really focused on it like that. So when I got here, I told myself, like, you got to get to a certain weight where you're durable for the season and you're available for your teammates. So I think that's something that me and my dietitian, Ms. Kristen, she's helped me a lot. And it's been kind of good to see, like, anytime my weight goes up, she gets so happy. So that's kind of another reason I like to put on a little weight, just to see her happy.
Husker quarterback Jeff Sims with us here, Hail Varsity Radio. And Jeff, when you talk about that body reshaping, I was never a great athlete, but I remember whenever I'd hit the weight room, my jump shot would get screwed up in basketball. I'd start shooting it long. Is there anything similar to that at the quarterback position, where as you reshape your body, it changes your throwing motion? There's any differences there as you put on some weight?
Not really. I think that's something that the strength staff does a good job at. They make sure that they take care of our arms. So we do like shoulder testing and stuff like that, just to make sure that our arm's still intact. Make sure that we're still on good pace to throw the ball. And anytime, like, we have a good warm up, they got a set warm up for us. So we're not just going out there and throwing the ball on cold arms. And I think that's something that they've been doing a good job at, is just making sure that they balance between gaining weight and also maintaining our arm strength and arm stability and motion in our arms and stuff like that. Because I know that I've gained a lot of mobility in my shoulders while putting on weight, so I think that's something that's been good.
Jeff Sims, few minutes with us, Hail Varsity Radio, Big Ten Media Days. I watched some film on you and really impressed with the plays you make on the move. Mm-hmm. When you're outside the pocket, or it's a run pass option, or it's an improv, but also when you do drop back, the pocket presence and hanging in there to find a seam route or a go route, which you've done both. Let's talk about what the vision is for you in this offense with Satterfield, as he's your quarterback's coach as well, but your fit and your strengths here. What's going to be applied from what you do well to what the offense will be?
So our offense is very versatile, and that's one thing that I really like. Coach Sat introducing me to a lot of new stuff. So I think that's something that's going to be on display, like just the versatility of the offense and just showing that we can be a multi-face offense. We can go in the center, we can be in the spread, we can do a lot. So I think that's something that's going to be really good for us, just to put different things on display. And I think it's beneficial for me just to adjust to doing things different, and just knowing that I can do, because in my head I can do anything on the field. So just knowing that I can do anything on the field, and knowing that knowing that the offense will fit to my strengths, and any weakness that I have, I can work it out in practice.
You mentioned the fit being so important. As you look at this offense, what do you want to do, or do you care when it comes to the running part of that, the quarterback run game?
I'm going to do whatever I got to do. Do whatever I got to do to put the team ahead and put the team in the best position. And I know Coach Satt, he knows me and him have a good enough relationship to where he knows what I can do. He knows what I need to work on, and I'm going to do everything I can do to put the offense in the best position.
Jeff Sims with us here, Hail Varsity Radio. And Jeff, take me through that process of learning a new offense here this offseason. I'm not asking you to divulge any state secrets of what the offense is going to look like, but I've heard some rumblings of the coaching staff utilizing some technology, maybe some VR headsets in order to help you guys learn the offense. How has that been going, and how comfortable do you feel in the offense as you approach fall camp?
I feel very comfortable in the offense right now. And I think learning a new offense, it really takes dedication and a lot of studying. Studying and just making sure that you know everything that you need to know. I think the biggest way for me to learn is by testing myself. So I'll have the coaches send me concepts that they need me to draw up, or just send me concepts throughout the day, and I'll be I'll draw them up, and I'll ask questions as I'm drawing them up. And one big thing that's helped me learn the offense is our coaches, anytime we draw something up, they make sure that you write every detail on it, yardage and all that, alignment. So just knowing every little detail of the offense. And then going back to the VR, the virtual reality, I think that's something that's really cool. I've never seen anything like it. And I think just getting those mental reps and visualizing it, that's something that's really helped us.
You truly get a feel for it, don't you, with that technology?
Exactly.
Jeff Sims, couple more minutes with us, Hail Varsity Radio, as we're here at Big Ten Media Days. So let's talk about the team in general, your role as quarterback and that leadership part of the responsibility, and how have you been able to connect with your teammates? How do you go about doing that?
Yeah, so my dad is one of the greatest leaders I know. And one thing I notice is being a great leader requires you to get to know the guys that you're leading. So my biggest thing when I got here was to get to know the guys, build relationships with them, hang out with them. So that's what I've been doing. I've been hanging out with the guys, doing different stuff with them, going bowling, going to lake houses, just hanging out with the guys and getting to know them. So I think that's helped me a lot because I actually know the guys. I know how to react to stuff. I know how different people react. And I know what pushes people's buttons and what doesn't. So when you take that approach, I think it's way easier to lead when you take that approach because they see you as a brother and they got much more respect for you. Because I don't feel like you can lead somebody that doesn't respect you, because they're not going to listen. So I think gaining that respect and getting to know them is the biggest thing that has helped me out.
Tell me more about your dad and his influence from a leadership standpoint. Just what type of example he's been for you.
Mm-hmm. So my dad, he was a manager at Planet Fitness, and then when I was 12, we started our own lawn service.
And on yard care?
Yeah. So
really?
Yeah. So after a couple years doing it, he decided to just take over that full time. Mm-hmm. And so he's running his own business right now. He's an entrepreneur. And just the way that he operates with the guys that he works with is truly amazing to see. And he's a minister in the church.
Okay.
So he just sets an example of what it is to be a good leader and what it is to lead by example, or what it is to tell guys what to do, tell them this, tell them that, and just make sure everything's on path.
Jeff Sims with us here, Hail Varsity Radio.
And Jeff, has your dad gotten the chance to come up to Lincoln and see the campus, see Nebraska? Has he gotten the chance to do that yet?
Yeah, most definitely. My first week here, he stayed up here the whole week. So it was really cool to see. His first time seeing snow was when he came up here for that first week. So
snow's overrated.
Yeah, it is. It's funny because he touched a pile of snow and it was hard. He was like, "Man, I thought snow was gonna be more fluffy than this."
In the mountains when you're skiing.
Yeah, it was funny.
Well, Jeff Sims with us. Last thought, Jeff. We've talked about the Big Ten. We talked about your role at quarterback, and the skill guys. I think Nebraska fans are excited about. Mm-hmm. But touch on kind of your relationship and your feelings on the offensive line? I mean, what can the line be this year for Nebraska?
The line is going to be a very big piece of the team. You know, I think the line is going to take the biggest jump over any other position group because they've been working really hard, and just seeing them, they're the first ones to every meeting, every workout. You know, before practice, they're meeting before practice. You know, and the guys just work hard. You know, and I think my biggest thing with them was just making sure that they know I support them and like know that I believe in them 100%. Like there's nothing they can do in my eyes that's wrong. And like, but on the same time, if they do something wrong, like I'll tell them. So like I think just building a relationship with them, hanging out with them, talking to them, I think that's been really good.
What trait or characteristic gives you confidence in them?
Just their work ethic. You know, their work ethic is very good, and the O-line is like a brotherhood. You know, like they're one of the close-knit teams on the group, one of the close-knit groups on the team. Like they're the closest position group on the team. So just seeing how they operate together, they do everything together, and that gives me confidence that they're gonna go out there and do what they need to do.
Jeff, quickly here before we get you out. We've heard a lot from the offensive line about their relationship with Donovan Raiola. We hear he's an intense guy. Take us behind the scenes on that. Well, what's it like with you working with Donovan Raiola? Is he as intense as he's made out to be?
He is. So Coach Raiola, he loves his old linemen now. Like he'll get on them, like he'll rip him and stuff. But there is no doubt if they ever need him, he'll be there in a second. You know, he'll do anything.
So
for
it's
them.
tough love?
Yeah, it's like tough love. Like, and they know that. Like, he'll get on them, but they know at the end of the day, if they ever need him, they can go to him for anything.
Jeff Sims. Jeff, nice to meet you. Thanks for the time.
Yes, sir.
So big thank you to Jeff Sims for joining us this morning out at Big Ten Media Days as we're nearing the end of this Thursday edition, nearing the end of Big Ten Media Days. We got one interview left for you here today as we sat down with Gerry DiNardo a little bit earlier today, talked PJ Fleck, Colorado's move to the Big 12, and a whole lot more. The Big Ten bus tour is upcoming with Gerry and his friends. That's coming your way after the break here on Hail Varsity Radio, presented by Currency.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Back with you at Hail Varsity Radio, Lucas Oil Stadium, Day 2, Big Ten Media Days. Longtime friend of the show, Coach Gerry DiNardo with us, BTN analyst. Coach, football season's already here. How you been?
I've been great. I've had a good break. I think we all think this is a great event, especially since they moved it to Lucas Oil. Interested to hear the coaches today. Go home, get on the bus, and we'll be rolling.
So what is that bus tour? We love when you come to Lincoln, but do you still enjoy the bus roadie with the camaraderie element?
Absolutely. Now, it's changed a little bit, Chris. You know, we used to have the big bus because our production team was bigger, and then we've downsized a little bit. Now we're in what they call a land jet, which is like a fancy name for a van with comfortable seats.
Sprinter van?
Yeah, Sprinter, or whatever it is, yeah. Sprinter, jogger van, whatever. But of interest perhaps to your audience, Lincoln's our first stop.
Oh, good.
Yeah. Either the 3rd or 4th of August. I'm not really sure.
You feeling wings that night or what?
I'm not sure. I don't even know.
You always send out a tweet, for food suggestions. I love it.
And I'm glad you reminded me. I probably would have forgot to do that if you didn't tell me. Thank you.
Okay. Well, you always do the chef. You got some sort of shrimp working.
Yep. Still cooking.
Oh, that's good. So let's get into the Big Ten here. What do you think, as on the periphery, we look at all these teams. You've got your favorites, you've got your question marks. Quarterbacks is where we've spent a lot of focus, and there's a lot of transfers in the West with that quarterback spot. We'll start with Nebraska. We talked with Jeff Sims a little bit ago. A lot of upside for him, but in general, Coach DiNardo, what do you think the Nebraska offense needs to be with year one of Rhule?
Well, I don't even know what it's going to look like.
I think like a power spread type deal.
Yeah, I've heard Matt talk about the fullback. I've heard the offensive coordinator say that he's an advocate of the huddle. Mm-hmm. And then, spread coaches say that the huddle is the biggest waste of time in college football. I'm going to actually ask Coach Rhule that question when we have him on set. So, I got to get up to speed on Nebraska. Don't know a lot about him yet, but my history with Nebraska goes long and deep because of my Colorado connections. I've always been a fan of Nebraska. And, I always say, Chris, and you've heard me say this, if you have greatness in your past, I believe you can have greatness in your future. But, I hate to say there's a but I got to tell you, Nebraska's really challenging my theory. It's
been a while.
Scott Frost, wasn't he the perfect hire? And before, and so, now Matt's a much different hire. I think it's a great hire. But, I thought a lot of guys were a great hire. And so, I'm pulling for Nebraska to be back where they used to. And I'm hoping my saying is correct.
It's Gerry DiNardo with us here on Hail Varsity Radio. And Gerry, give me a couple things you'll be watching for early in Matt Rhule's tenure to determine if he is going to be able to turn this program and bring Nebraska closer to where it was back into the glory years.
Well, I think it always starts with what practice looks like. We are so fortunate in the Big Ten Network to get to watch everybody practice. And the coaches have been so generous with their time and everything else, and we'll never take it for granted. So I want to see him practice. I think you learn maybe more watching a team practice than you do watching them play a game, and basically that's why they don't usually want you at practice, right? meaning the media. So I want to see that. Chris has already mentioned the style of offense. I'm curious to see that. Just A to Z with Nebraska. Again, I go back to 1982 at Nebraska. So it's always one of my favorite stops, and I'm just going to be like a sponge and just soak everything up I can from Matt Rhule.
Over the years of the teams you've seen practice, who practices at the best level? Whose practice impresses you and those results show up on Saturdays?
Yeah, that's a great question, Chris, and your audience can't see that. I'm going to go right across the conference. They have all the logos up there. I think Brett Bielema's practices are really good. I think Kirk Ferentz's practices are really good. Jim Harbaugh's are a little bit unique. Mel Tucker's backing off the contact. PJ at Minnesota, it's a really upbeat practice. A little unusual with PJ. He's on a loudspeaker, so when he says something, everybody on the team sees it. Nebraska, it just depends which coach we've been watching. Northwestern's been okay. Ohio State's a high level. Penn State's a high level. Jeff Brom, who's no longer there, as we know, that was a little bit of a throwback. They are coaching aggressively.
Like Woody and Bo.
I don't want to get anybody in trouble, but man, they get after him. Greg Schiano is very interesting. He'll bring the team up like 2 or 3 times during practice, and basically give them, I don't know if you want to call it a pep talk, but basically say, hey, these next 3 periods, so this is what So that was really cool to watch Greg do it, and I haven't seen Fick. I saw Fick as an assistant coach and as a head coach.
How did you conduct practices?
Who
are you most similar to from the teams you went down the line?
We were pretty structured. Who are we most similar? Probably Iowa.
Okay.
Probably Rutgers. Probably those two as I look at 14 schools up there. I'd say those two.
Okay.
Gerry DiNardo with us here on Hail Varsity Radio. And Gerry, you're a guy who's, as Schmidt kind of said, you've run your own practices. You've gotten to see all the schools in the Big Ten. And it's interesting timing with the story that came out yesterday about PJ Fleck, some former players reporting that they felt that he had a toxic culture at Minnesota. I want you to dive into that. What's your reaction to that? And what have you seen from PJ Fleck and his staff at practices? Is there anything to back that up?
Well, to me, it's an unusual culture. I don't think I could really know it enough. Although we have seen, as I've mentioned, I can't now all of a sudden we haven't said we haven't seen anything, but it's an unusual culture. And by way of example, which I've already mentioned, he has a microphone. He's mic'd up, and if he's telling the right guard step with your left foot, it echoes through the entire practice. That's an unusual culture. We all know he's got all these sayings, right? He's got row the boat, he's got elite, and all that. Those are all very unusual things. I would say it should attract a certain type of athlete. Not every athlete is going to buy into that stuff. Toxic is a strong word for me to agree or disagree because it's a very negative term, and I just don't know enough. But, if I was a high school guy, that's not what I'm looking for. Let me put it that way. And I don't mean that negative. I'm not built that way. I'm not built with all the sayings. I'm not built with, if everything in the article was accurately depict. I'm not in with the Fleck bucks and all that stuff. That's just not me. That doesn't mean it's toxic. Doesn't mean it's bad. That's not my style.
Coach Gerry DiNardo with us, Big Ten Network analyst. Another season for Coach, and we're kicking off here day 2 at Big Ten Media Days. Coach, before we get you out, I got to go back to Colorado, as it sounds like they may be trying to get moved back in the old neighborhood, the Big 12.
I think it's a good move. I've always felt that way. I thought they said no last week, so I must have missed something or read a bad report. You know, Rick George worked for me at Vanderbilt. We worked together at Colorado. He's the AD at Colorado now. I think it's a good move. I think their roots, they have history with a lot of the Big 12 schools. When we were recruiting in Colorado, and Tom Osborne and Bill McCartney were the two best recruiters in the conference. You know, we went to California a little bit. You know, Eric Bieniemy, Darian Hagan.
Hagan was a great.
I mean, great players out of California, but not a big number. But in Texas, bigger numbers. You know, I went to Detroit. I mean, so I think from a recruiting base, I think this is a good move for them. And the Pac-12, I mean, if they can't tell their membership now about the new TV deal, you know, Colorado has never been funded like Nebraska. I mean, I've told this story to you before, Chris. Back in the day when I was at Colorado, we played in Lincoln. We would go look at the cafeteria that Tom had. We'd go look at the weight room. I mean, we were envious. We weren't even close to that. And I think Colorado is still a program that isn't funded like Nebraska and some of the other schools. And I think that's a better fit with the Big 12.
Well, Coach Prime has got all sorts of ideas, and I know there's excitement. So I know you got to run. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Chris.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Wrapping up a Thursday edition of Hail Varsity Radio, here's we're presented by Currency. Elijah Herbel taking you through the last few minutes of the show here as Schmitty. He's off to grab some dinner. He's up bright and early tomorrow morning catching a flight back to Lincoln. He'll be back in studio, assuming there's no delays. Let's knock on some wood. I think you can hear that through the radio. Knocking on some wood here, making sure there's no delays or cancellations impacting his travel schedule so he can be back in studio for a Friday edition of Hail Varsity Radio. That's tomorrow from 4 to 6. But we still have plenty of content from Big Ten Media Days that we'll get into. A whole bunch of unaired interviews, most likely going up as podcast exclusives before the end of the week. We'll let you know about those. But if you missed anything from the show today, man, we're reloaded. Matt Rhule back in our first segment of the show. We had Trev Alberts in hour 1 as well as Luke Reimer, I should say, all back in hour 1. Here in hour 2, we have had Damon Benning. He led off hour 2 with us as we caught up with Damon earlier today out in Indianapolis, and he let us know about his thoughts on Media Days as well as his upcoming interview. It's dropping tomorrow with Matt Rhule. A long interview, almost an hour of content there. You can find that on the Hurrdat Sports YouTube channel. Again, tomorrow we'll get a link for you up on the Hail Varsity Twitter page as well at HVarsity Radio. We also heard from Husker quarterback Jeff Sims, and just now we heard from a longtime Big Ten analyst and former coach at Indiana, Colorado, Gerry DiNardo, joined us last segment. If you missed any of that, all of it's going to be available shortly following the show in podcast form. We had some technical difficulties last night with our podcast, but we seem to have gotten those resolved, and we'll get the podcast posted for you tonight. Again, Spotify, Apple Music, Google Play, or Amazon Podcasts, all great places for you to go find Hail Varsity Radio, but really wherever you find podcasts, you should be able to find Hail Varsity Radio. Before we get out of here, Colorado joining the Big 12. Could it create a domino effect in college football? Is the Big Ten going to go after Washington and Oregon? Well, we don't know for sure, but we did have new Big Ten Commissioner Tony Petitti hit on the new TV media rights deal, the future of the conference, yesterday during his opening statement, kicking off Big Ten Media Days. Let's get into that right now as Tony Petitti, he hits on the future of the Big Ten Conference and what the new TV media partners mean. He doesn't necessarily get into Washington and Oregon and whether or not they're going to be added to the Big Ten or if the Big Ten's going to explore that option, but you can read in between the lines here with what Petitti has to say.
With our new media partners, our reach will be unprecedented. We have done a great deal of scheduling work the past few months to ensure that we have strong matchups in every telecast window. And I think Thanksgiving weekend this season is a powerful example of that work. Iowa at Nebraska on CBS on Thanksgiving Friday at noon. Penn State at Michigan on Michigan State on NBC on Thanksgiving Friday in prime time. And then Ohio State at Michigan on Fox on Saturday at noon, followed by a 4 p.m. Big Ten matchup on Fox as well. Each of these games will receive significant promotion in NFL Thanksgiving games. The power of broadcast TV cannot be underestimated. Last season, 27 of the 30 most watched college football telecasts were on broadcast TV. This season, the Big Ten will have more football games on broadcast TV than any other conference, a projected 34. When the new deal is fully implemented in 2024, we are projecting 45 broadcast TV games each season. Big Ten fans will move seamlessly from Fox to CBS to NBC.
So think about the power of broadcast television there and what the additions of Oregon and Washington would do to the broadcast TV rights. I'll just let you read between the lines. They're not saying necessarily anything there, but Petiti, I think, alluding to what the Big Ten wants, and that's that coast-to-coast brand that will command a whole bunch of power from 11 a.m. all the way up until sundown on your college football Saturday. That'll do it for us here on a Thursday edition of Hail Varsity Radio. Again, Schmitty's back in tomorrow from 4 to 6, as we'll have our usual Friday guests, as well as maybe our interview with Ethan Piper. We didn't get to that today, but a lot of good content there. I think we'll play that for you tomorrow. Hail Varsity, join us tomorrow from 4 to 6. That's when we'll talk to you again.